right, let's get started. This is a special meeting of the Distress Unit Appeal Board, July 8th, 2022. We do have two or three items for all interrelated. This is our custom. We will do the public comment first. We've asked as is our practice for comment for special meetings to go to with that, we'll move to our first item of business, which is consideration of a vision of an ESSER plan for your community school. Nathan, I believe you're here for that.
Yes. Thank you. Yes, so this line item very closely aligns to the contracts that you'll see as the next request. Because the first contract for the furniture, the overall cost is a little bit higher than what we were projecting. It is going to cause a shift within the ESSER plan of $1 million. I guess I said a little bit, $1 million is not just a little bit. So the ESSER plan that you all voted and approved a few months ago, every line item remains the same except for two. The two that are changing is the increase of $1 million to be able to fully fund the furniture request that is coming as the next agenda item. We are pulling that funding from the line item for the collective bargaining agreement incentives. Just a little bit of context on that. We're fully committed to funding those as promised in our collective bargaining agreement. If you remember, some of that was performance-based, and so it was not the expectation that 100% payment would occur. And so there is some wiggle room with that funding because there was not 100% attainment. So at least for this year alone, we have that money to pull to that other line item that we wouldn't have to somewhere else. So that's the source of the funding of where we are holding.
So just to be clear, what we're saying is we're not using the incentives. Second, we're not paying providing teachers and so there.
Correct.
Your questions for Nathan?
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Wes, please.
Thank you. I'm sure it was a little bit of a surprise when you got these quotes back. Do you anticipate any other surprises possibly due to, for whatever reason, supply chain or the inflation, et cetera, on any of the other ESSER purchases that you're looking to make?
Good question, Wes. So we're ready to go with purchase orders once we receive the board's approval. So normally that's going to lock in our prices.
I need to let me interrupt. I should rephrase my question on future purchases of other items or other ESSER purchase items, not necessarily on the furniture now. And then I'll ask another quick question and I'll be done, I think. Well, go ahead and I'll let you answer that.
Yeah, so to answer your question, the ESSER plan and all of the future contracts, future activities, I definitely think we have to remind the board that it's a fluid process. Prices have continued to change almost by the minute, depending on what it is that you're purchasing. And you all know that from your own personal lives and professional lives. So yes, there has had, and I've worked through that with fees on the smaller contracts because things have come in typically higher than what we initially projected. So having wiggle room now and in the future is definitely important to keep in mind.
Do we need to possibly expedite purchases that we have for the future in order to possibly avoid increases in costs?
So I would say the things that are under the threshold, Pete has been good to work with me on if I say I really need this now. Like I have to lock in this purchase order this week in order for the price increase to not take place. Most of our vendors, save a couple, have been pretty good about communicating that with us. But big picture, yes, having, our regular meetings and continuing to expect regular contracts is going to be the norm. Because this is a lot of money with a short shelf life that we're going to have to continue to stay on progress with.
What's happening to the old furniture?
So
how's that being handled? How's that being coordinated from a? Go ahead, Mr. Chair.
Before we jump to furniture, I'd like to some of the ESER plan for the moment. Contract.
Justin, I'm hearing about every third word from you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, let's hold firm. Let's hear the questions on the furniture contract.
Okay.
And we'll just focus on the ESER plan.
Gotcha.
Any questions on the ESER plan?
No.
Questions on the ESER plan? Thank you. With that, Chair, I make a motion. Second.
It needs to be Ms. Kabaki or Mr. Bennett.
I apologize, Mr. Chairman. I'm not hearing most of what you say. So, was there a call for a motion?
Joyce made a motion to approve the ESER plan.
I will second.
Thank you. Motion in the second. Any discussion on?
Mr. Bennett,
Yes.
Mr. Joyce, Ms. Kabaki, can you hear us?
Yes.
Chairman McAdam.
Yes.
4-0.
Our next item of business is a consideration of really three separate contractual obligations, but put them in two groups. One are two contracts related to the classroom furniture that discussed. The other one is a fee and distributed contract. Let's just take the contract first.
Great, excellent. So we do have a slide presentation for you today. That's facilitated information. And I do have some information about the paving and the striping on that as well. All right, so let's start with the furniture proposal. So based upon, we did release a request for proposal many months ago, and a lot of work has gotten us to this point. We've done teacher focus groups. Teachers have gotten to see the furniture in person live, touch it, feel it, sit on it, use it. And that led us to the recommendations. Principals had input on what they would like within their schools. But obviously some uniformity there too in terms of making it a good purchase decision for the district. So we did focus on making sure that we updated while we upgraded our furniture with some new learning styles. The furniture is intended to encourage, active group participation and student mobility. So the next slide gives a picture of where we are now. Just to show the difference between where we are going. This is an example of what you see in nearly all of our classrooms. And so you can see the quality of it varies quite a bit from the first picture, mixed matched sizes with sizes of chairs. And this will allow us to make sure we have uniformity with what our children need with specific sizing. The next picture is just a continuation of that. Just different types of examples. Now, I'll go ahead and answer Mr. Bennett's question. Now, a good portion of this furniture that's still usable is going to be donated. Most school districts work with this organization and their names within our proposals where furniture that's still usable is donated to third world countries. And so they're able to use the furniture there. Things that are no longer usable or the cost of getting rid of it through that method is higher than disposal, then we are disposing of some of the furniture as well. So a combination of donating and disposing. The next slide has a rationale of why we want to go down this route. We talked about this at length whenever we received approval for this activity through the ESSER plan. So the activity is aligned to what ESSER allows and also improving learning spaces for children. And so we do believe it will have an indirect effect on academic outcomes for classrooms as well. This activity was vetted for allowability through DUAB with their grant process as well. So the next slide shows our elementary models. And so these are actual renderings from the company, which is the first contract for your approval at K-12. And as you can see, the tables have the ability to be separated, so you can still do desks and rows, but we know children learn best whenever they are working together on higher learning tasks. And so it does have the emphasis on pushing the tables together and of how convex and concave shaping some of the tables are. And then you have a mix of different types of seating. So we've got rugs with pillows for kids to use during reading time. You've got taller tables that certain children, if they need to stand and stretch their legs, but still want to focus. And small group tables as well, where kids can work together, and or if it's a child with a disability who needed a paraprofessional right next to them, then you have a space where they're able and ready to work together. That is the elementary model. If you would proceed to the next slide, this is the middle and high school model, and I'll point out this is a different company, VS America. When we did use a committee to decide what furniture was recommended, and then we nailed it down with principal and individual teacher feedback. We greatly liked what K-12 provided for preschool and elementary, and vice versa. We greatly liked what VS America provided for middle and high. And that also helped us out with cost, as well with making sure that the secondary did not have more than what it essentially needed. So you are going to see a little bit different of a design here. But small group tables again, we still got some storage space. We've got some stools, taller tables so the kids can again use different types of seating. So that is the design of VS America. The next slide has just a little bit of background on the cost. The actual discount, even though we did do a request for proposal for these to nail down what companies we would like to use, both of these vendors were through our cooperative purchasing agreement structure that Indiana allows for. And so we did receive competitive pricing with the RFPs, but the pricing that we received through the co-ops was greater, so represented 22% of the discount. And so that number, it's hard to nail down the exact number for the discount, but there's a reference of at the minimum what it would be. But the K-12 contract request is $4.974 million, and that was for pre-K through fifth grade. And then the 6th through 12th is through VS America, and their total contract request is $3.052. The next slide is our last one on the furniture, future planning. Just to reiterate, this is emphasizing groups and kids working together. It also allows flexibility for teachers to teach in different ways and children to while they are learning, which all of those things are supported by research of improving how kids learn. So the following information starts on the paving and striping. So I'll stop there.
So with the competitive bid process. Selecting, we will also have contracts through the cooperatives. Yes. That contract. Because of all the
Correct. We did the RFP process primarily so that all of us warrant for request because we did and wanted to pitch us on versus just calling for it, especially since this is such a large purchase, probably the largest purchase.
Well, what is the scrap value of all of this?
Right.
Are we giving money away just because we're not scrap plant, or we have a process for getting rid of it? Or because of scrap?
No, I would say we did poll what some other districts did. There is yes some scrap metal in there. We entertained some other ideas too, like that process of what we would get from it. And honestly, it was timeline of being able to switch out the old to the new with one. One of the other options that we entertained was doing a community auction and placing everything in the gym and seeing who would like to take it home. Other districts have done that, taken a lot of effort to pull it all to one place. If yeah, there is a substantial value to it.
You don't think there's a substantial value of all of them?
Well, it was really the cost savings and the time savings with placing the new furniture and getting rid of it. And that played into it.
Do the vendors, are they responsible for disposal? Is that, they bake that into the pricing if there is?
Yeah, so the total cost of the project, I think, again, we're trying to do this within the time frame that this funding allows and trying to get the new pieces in. The disposal, the delivery, and then the install of the new furniture. Yes, it's all done by these companies. And honestly, it's a capacity reason for us too. We do. Yeah. Yeah, we do. So, we did, as part of the process, get quotes from these companies on what it would take to get rid of. So, getting rid of the materials, there's a cost baked in to. So, that would be my response is that yes, as part of this process, we put out for bid and asked for what cost there would be for also getting rid of the old furniture and getting new ones. Yeah. Yeah.
Is there a particular, I don't know whether the rules.
I've been in remember I was off on the head, but I'm saying what we should have this discussion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just getting rid of it is not
Yeah, understood.
finding the easiest way to get rid of it, not giving them to who you want to get rid of it.
Okay, so part of the process before we proceed? Is it where, you know, we can provide further information to make sure that we've satisfied all of those pieces in that before the contract?
I would suggest as long as Jason signs.
So we can provide what we've done to date with all of these proposals, and then if we need to do something different, we absolutely will.
Do you think, I mean, just from a local standpoint, do you think local staff not get rid of this stuff? And you make money, they make money. And we showed those events, they're 90%.
So, you're saying that the disposal is right. That's what I think that could affect your contractual.
We've not signed anything. So, if we need to pivot to make sure that we're in compliance with that, that's our priority. Obviously, we don't want to do anything that's outside of what we want to do. So I have no problem with pausing. If we do receive contingent approval that Chase has signed off, and then I could work with Pete after the fact to demonstrate that he is satisfied. That is no problem.
He's referring to when I say it's baked in, your vendor might be assuming, oh, we're gonna get, you know, $100,000 from the scrap metal. And then they're charging you less because of it. So if we're gonna say because of the rules, we're not able to give that to them, they might raise price. So that's the contingency.
There's more manufacturing.
Yeah. Exactly. That's right. That's right.
Scrap is not.
Yeah, so the two that we have within the contracts are the donation. When we put out for bid, we ask for bid on all of the processes, the disposal, the delivery, and so. They are subcontracting for those pieces, and so, the price of the new furniture is baked in with the cooperative purchasing structure. And so, to your point, Keith, I think, the cost that we're paying for the new furniture and install is baked in with that, and not just the RFP. So, if we need to pivot on the disposal to make sure that we're fully complying with disposal requirements, and just honestly, in some cases, maybe just remove that cost altogether. I think for us, I want to point out is, you know, and this is something we can demonstrate too with the contract is, and I can learn more from Chase and you, Paul, on this. It's absolutely the timing and getting those scrap metal people in and removing the items in fashion where we then can use in this space. And I guess we'll gather more information as we talk through that. But what we did not want was a long drawn out disposal process that would prevent the new furniture ever in a timely fashion. And at least these bids allowed us to do it.
I would think what they're charging for disposal.
Right. No, yes, you're correct.
Your purchase of equipment, but I think disposal. I think you can make sure. All of almost gonna be time. There's a lot to be done. It's not where in most cases, most schools say, hey, take it all away and get it. They do have it to do. It is not a long procedure to take it and just ship it all down. That may be the easy way, but it's not.
You've got a couple other funding sources besides ESSER, which have some other strings attached. Can you just kind of address?
Sure.
what you're doing?
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, so we are still funding this cost across a couple different funding streams. So I'll touch on this briefly. The lion's share, yes, is through ESSER 3 The two others that are cited, IDEA 611 is the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, Part B. And we've also placed that in that grant and received approval through that process separately with IDOE. That funding is going to represent honestly a small portion of how much it would cost to turn over the furniture in the classrooms for kids with disabilities. And that's an allowable cost through them as well. As I mentioned, we saw and received approval. So we will make sure that those go into special ed classrooms. As if we dug in deeper to the proposal, the full packet, the full 500 pages, you do see different renderings for the special ed classrooms to be able to show that they have a little bit different of a seating need. So we were able to cost share with that. And then lastly, Title I, a small portion, 360,000 total. We're going to pay for some of the bookshelves in the classrooms. Also received approval directly from DUAB bookshelf.
I just wanted to provide a voice.
Right. Yeah, it's a very good question. We started out this process with the furniture committee that did have teachers on. That narrowed down, that reviewed the three proposals that we received, narrowed down to what ended up being the two separate ones. So we did have administrators and teachers on that committee. And then once we selected which companies we were going to work with, then we did have samples shipped from the companies to the schools. One of our all-teacher PD days that we had a couple months ago, we had it there present. Teachers walked down, got to see it in action, use it, sit on it, and so on, and gave their feedback directly to us of what they liked and didn't like. And overwhelmingly, it was positive that we received. So committee-wise, and then honestly, a large majority of our teachers in the district directly saw it.
I think part of the will have the option to use videos.
So we've already done that process with the principals, and they were to get feedback from their teachers as to, for example, the science lab needed something different. And some of the other different types of class. The career center, the furniture is quite a bit different than some of the other schools because of the, so yes, there was individual feedback. Now, for the most part, we tried to get flexible furniture that way. A typical classroom, kindergarten, first, second, third grade, they're all really going to have the same things. But the furniture is movable, can be reorganized differently, that will allow individual teacher input into what their specific class looks like.
Questions about the Professor West and any questions?
Mr. Bennett, do you have any questions?
Yeah, do you have additional questions about the furniture?
No, everything that I've heard has answered those questions. Thank you.
Well, if I do, if Mr. Joyce's concern is an important one, obviously, I think the appropriate path forward would be to approve that. Approve the contract up to the amount with the purchase and disposal of furniture. But then it would be subject to final, I would say subject to final approval by either the executive director. I would prefer us to have a report of that to the board on that's the email that everybody, I would entertain a motion.
So you're gonna make a motion to approve the contract with purchase of.
We'll have to bring that. Second.
Second.
Seconds. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, hearing none. Please call the roll.
Mr. Bennett,
Yes.
Mr. Joyce, Ms. Kabaki, Mr. McAdams.
Yes.
This is 4-0.
4-0. Great, thank you. Next, we have Rick Riley.
So Bethune, as you all know, is our early childhood ed center. And so this is a project already within the 1065 School Improvement Fund in order to address paving and striping needs all across the district. We've already done West Side. This now is our further request after. We did do a request for proposal for this process as well and received one bid from Reeve Riley, who we've utilized on other projects and been satisfied with their performance. $276,556 was their bid. And the next slide has a visual of the area that is going to be addressed. So you've got some green area that has some milling and paving done. Some blue needs to have some striping kind of as well. It's going to need some work and then is able to be able to do the paving once that work is done. And then we've got yellow with some concrete issues that we're addressing at the same time. So trying to make sure that that school is receiving improvements to make it a little bit safer and traffic flow improve. Yeah, so the total 1065 plan, we paid about $1 million for West Side. The bid obviously is far, far smaller than West Side and 276. We have $2 million overall reserved for the remaining schools. So we did $1 million for West Side, $2 million for everywhere else. Subtracting West Side, we've got 9 more buildings to carry out with the $2 million. So 276, a little bit higher than average per building, but some of the buildings don't have similar needs. So I think this still keeps us on track with being able to address parking lot needs across the entire district with that existing knowledge, at least based on what we have.
Okay. With that, I can see a motion.
I would move we approve this. The striping at Bethune, right?
Yes. the amount of 276. Here's a motion. Is there a second? Motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, please call.
Mr. Bennett,
Yes.
Mr. Joyce, Ms. Kabaki, Chairman McAdam. Passes 4-0.
Thank you. That concludes our schedule. This is any new business to come before the board. Okay, hearing none, we are adjourned.